Hey everybody, this is the Silver Spook podcast, and this is Silver Spook, aka Christian Miller. I'm very excited to be here with Jordi de Paco of Deconstructeam, maker of the awesome Cyberpunk adventure game Red Strings Club, which I recently played and really liked a lot, and also The Gods Will Be Watching, if I'm not mistaken. Jordi, you want to just say a little bit about your team and everything?
Yeah, hello everybody. Thanks for having me here. And yeah, well, we are a three-people team, and basically we do a lot of experiments. We've been making games for about 6 years now, and we've done about 25, 26 games so far, but it's always like narrative experiments or weird stuff. And from all of that, two of them kind of work. So and those are the ones that were converted into commercial releases that are what you said, Gods Will Be Watching, and lately the Red Strings Club.
Cool. So maybe we can talk a little bit. How did you guys? You're based out of Spain, correct?
Yeah. Valencia, Spain.
Oh,
It's in the east coast of Valencia, of Spain.
oh, okay, cool. And how did you guys get together? You guys just kind of all liked games and just kind of met. That was it like a origin story?
Well, I started making games by myself because in the past I tried joining some big teams. Like you meet people at work and everybody wants to make games, and it's like, okay, let's put a 15 people team together and we're going to do a JRPG, but it's going to be better than Final Fantasy and all that stuff, and it always failed. So when I tried it again, I decided to start by myself. I mean, so I couldn't blame anyone for failing. I'm just going to do games, and I'm trying to do small games. Yes, I'm trying to make something small that I can do in a weekend. And if I cannot do that, it means I won't be able to survive a 1 year long development. So I started small, and I was able to make several games. But the thing is that I'm not a really skilled artist, and I don't know anything about sound or music. So some people started seeing my games, and out of pity started helping me. So that's how the team started to come together. The first one was Marina, who is the artist, and my games really suck, so she started making art to help me. And and it happened the same with the music. We started making silent games. I mean, we released about 12 games with no sound at all, not SFX, not music, and they were just silent browser games. And in the same way, Paula, who is the composer and sound artist, found us on the internet and offered her help just to out of pity. So the Construct team is a team built out of mercy.
that's cool. Yeah, But I mean, that's kind of how these things happen. So there's 6 games altogether. I hadn't heard of the other 4. I know of the 2, but yeah, I usually know there's a lot more that goes into the learning process and figuring out how this stuff works. I've been doing games for, I don't know how long I've been making it, like 20 something years now. I started in like Half-Life 1. I don't know if you remember that from the
Yeah,
90s. That's where I
yeah, yeah.
started. So I'm doing this a long time, and but yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of work. Indie teams. That's why I respect anybody who a 3-person team. Anybody who can pull off a game, because it's so much work. And then not just the making it, also the promotion of it after. I know you've been doing a big promotional tour, right? You went to the conference recently. How was that, by the way?
Oh, it was fine. Yeah, I mean, for the communication or to promotion of the game, we are lucky to count with Devolver Digital, who handle all the boring stuff we don't want to do about releasing the game, distribution, and promotion. But still, we have to attend the events and speak with people and everything. So, but that part I enjoyed, meeting people and hanging out with the community.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Devolver Digital is they're it's a good name to be under for sure. Let's see. I'm just looking up the Red Strings Club now. I'm trying to remember everything about I wanted to ask you about, but yeah, the Silver Spook podcast and I interview a lot of indie creators, and William Gibson was the biggest name on there. I'm definitely in the cyberpunk genre. I like my game, like Newfeed, is a very cyberpunk heavy, adventure game. It's similar in the sense that it's a cyberpunk adventure game. And I'm really interested in the topics of that, and I really like what I really liked about Red Strings Club. A lot of things I liked a lot about it. I talked recently about Cyberpunk 2077 is hitting, and I had this whole long thing about how Cyberpunk has to kind of evolve for the times. Like I don't know if you played any of the earlier stuff. It's a little bit different, and I think that it's a hot topic now, right? Is what should Cyberpunk and science fiction and games and generally what should they keep about the old school Cyberpunk, which was kind of like about it was much more how would you say this, action oriented, a lot of very some people recently accused it of being very nihilistic, very like bleak. The characters are very individualistic. They don't really care about anybody, just surviving, right? That was a thing that just came up recently in this big article. So I was like thinking about it, right? It's like my take on it was Cyberpunk was really about for me it was really about a Neuromancer, that's the one I was talking to William Gibson about. He's the writer of the original Cyberpunk book, Neuromancer, and it's really about it was critiquing a system, right, of corporate, greed is good and make a lot of money, and everyone else, I viewed it as like a critique of it, like kind of like this world of the sprawl, right, is not really a good place to live in, right, and it's anyway, so but I do view it simultaneously like Cyberpunk doesn't. I think it does need to move forward, and I did think the Red Strings Club, it doesn't just kind of do what like I don't know, Shadowrun, Cyberpunk 2020, those games did. It's kind of doing something new, just the gameplay dynamics, right? It's a there's a bartending, drink mixing, like very hands-on, tactile aspect of it, which is very obviously Valhalla is another game that kind of also does that, but it's Red Strings is very different. But the fact that it's relying on that, it has these new, what do you call, as opposed to just shooting some rent-a-cops with your giant guns, right? That's a tradition, right? Metal Gear, Ghost in the Shell. How many games are there where you do that? So I think that's good. I like the pottery, like the social engineering hacking part was really, I like that a lot. I don't know, it's just so I like to see things that are taking Cyberpunk and making it and doing something new. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit like how you guys came to that, like when you're writing it, because you're the lead writer on this, correct?
I'm basically, to define my work on the game, I do everything apart from the art and the music. So design, programming, writing, and community management. I don't know everything.
Right. Yeah, maybe you can talk about how was your process when you're like, I don't know, like for the characters, like I don't know, Akara was a really interesting character for me. Like the android that's designing people's. Very shortly, I'm gonna quickly, it's just this character Akara designs these implants that for people, wanting to modify their personalities. Her job is to make the character or people happier. Where that's like there's a cosplayer who wants to get more followers, so you make an implant that makes her more charismatic, and then she's like, oh no, I'm so famous now, I have all these haters and trolls, and I don't want that anymore. So you make an implant that like filters all of the negativity out of her life, and then so it's just like a lot of this really interesting. How did you like come when you're, I don't know, maybe you could talk about what you were thinking there.
Well, it's not easy to follow how it all came to be, because the Red Strings Club is made out of a lot of accidents. Since I told when I presented myself, we do a lot of experiments and games. We join a lot of game jams. So the Red Strings Club is actually built from 3 different prototypes we developed. And the part of Akara was from a small game we made called Zen and the Art of Transhumanism. And it was for a Ludum Dare, which theme was shape-shifting. So we use that theme in literally and metaphorically. So literally you shape the shift, you shift the shape of the pottery, the pots, but also you shape the lives, you transform people. So that was the original idea, and we work with that. But then when we had to bring that, actually I'm going to speak about the whole conception of the Red Strings Club, because it explains a lot of the decisions. We were at that time, before starting making the Resistance Club, working on different games. When we made, after got really watching, it was 4 years ago. We believed we were already ready to make games. So we rented an office and created a bigger team and everything. And the game we made failed, and we had to cancel it. And we lost all our money and had to leave the office and get rid of all the team and go back to be just 3 people. And I started making a new game after that about a plane that, I know, it was a chill game about a plane going through some beautiful landscapes. But after working a year on that, it didn't work either. So we got to some kind of emergency meeting in which we said, okay, we've spent 2 years working on stuff that didn't work. Why it is so hard? Why cannot we come up with something that works? And we didn't money. So we decided, why don't we just put 3 of the best received games we made so far together and just sell them? It was just like a joke. And we started brainstorming, like, okay, why don't we put together the pottery with the bartending and making phone calls? And we just started laughing and started making jokes about how to put that all together. And at that some moment we had to stop, like, okay, everybody stop, because this is actually cool. So I spent 1 day trying to put everything together and designing it. And when I was ready, I called the team, like, everybody come here, this is actually awesome. And so once this happy accident happened, I had to kind of build a narrative that linked all the different mechanics like bartending, pottery, and making phone calls. And what I saw is that all of these mechanics, all of these ideas were all about manipulation. I mean, you are in the clinic making pottery to alter people's lives, where the bartending, you can alter people's emotions. So you are manipulating them to take information out of them. And with social engineering, it's just literally manipulating people. So I saw uh, all these three ideas has the element of manipulation together. So I built a narrative that would mix everything together. So that's why I created the idea of the social psych welfare and supercontinent, which is like manipulation but on a bigger scale. They were, for the people who doesn't know, the social psych welfare is some kind of algorithm that can be installed on every human that has bionic implants and suppresses all negative emotions like rage, depression, anxiety. Um, so yeah, I put this kind of fight. Like, we have manipulation coming from the big corporations like Supercontinent, but then the way the characters had to fight against this manipulation is also manipulation. So it's kind of a bit hypocritical, the fight. But I kind of enjoyed that irony. That is manipulation justified if it's in a smaller scale, or aren't they just doing whatever they can with the means they have? And some happen to have a corporation behind them, and some don't. So that's a lot of that's so you understand a lot of the decisions we made in every mini game. It's were just to reinforce this theming of manipulation.
Oh yeah, that's a interesting backstory. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought that, but yeah, I do find it really interesting, like the way that these projects come together, and it's not always like a, what do you think? It might seem very linear, like, oh, they wrote the beginning, they wrote the middle, they wrote the end. You know, they made a blueprint. I guess on a massive team, you might have to do that on a 1,000-person AAA game, but you know, but indie teams, I think that's a benefit of it, is you can. It's much more organic and evolution. You know, you have, like, what do you call it? Like the chaos of life.
Yeah,
And
yeah, exactly.
you have a much more interesting. You can get to much more interesting places that you would never be able to get to when you have to structurally plan out the entire game from beginning to end in a skeleton. I've worked at larger game companies, and it's always kind of goes like that, and everybody's kind of, you know, it's more like an empire than you know, an artist collective, I think.
Yeah, it's hard to improvise and to steer, to how to make decisions. I mean,
Yeah.
even with that, we changed a lot of scenes from the Residence Club even months before release. So yeah, we have that kind of flexibility when you are a small team.
Yeah. So it's that's really cool. I definitely got that. The social manipulation was the central theme. Obviously, the Red Strings Club, who's the puppet master, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I like the obviously very appropriate for modern reality, which that's a hot topic in a lot of places. Social media
Mm-hmm.
obviously is a big one. Red Strings Club. I'm just looking at some of the review here. I really liked it a lot. The music obviously is fantastic. Who did that, by the way? It's like,
The music is from Paula Fingerspeed, and she does all the sound effect and music in our games. And yeah, she's really talented.
oh, awesome! Yeah. The trailer music. I remember watching that. I was like, that was
Oh yeah, yeah.
that was pretty epic. I was like getting the chills from the.
Yeah, yeah. I mean
um,
that you mean the release trailer with the you see the mechanics and all? It's more like an up. I mean, there are two trailers: the one with the piano theme and the other one with the upbeat music.
the more upbeat. I think it's the theme of the I forget the lady in red. It's
Yeah,
also her theme, right?
yeah, Larissa. The song is called "Marketing Director," and yeah, that's my favorite from the soundtrack.
Yeah. That one's awesome. Yeah, that's a very intense, and it really fit the trailer really well. So a very good job on that. Also, a lot of Cyberpunk is a lot of it is like philosophical kind of questions.
Hmm.
Like when is a manipulation okay? When is it not? What would an artificial intelligence be like if we were to create one? That's another. Well, obviously, you have the Akara character is
Hmm.
literally an android, right? And then you have but I think and it's good that it's not like black and white. It's a lot of asking questions. It's almost like the Socratic method. They like the Akara interrogation after was
Yeah,
interesting too. You every answer you have there's like a counter response, right? Like
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean the game is designed no matter what you answer, Akara always has a counterpoint. So
yeah
it's
yeah. So
it's designed to make you think.
it took how long did it take to make altogether? If you
Uh, from the idea to we finish the game, it was about 11 months of work.
oh okay 11 months or three people 11 months yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
How has it been with Devolver Digital? How is this your first time being? Did they publish your other game or is this
No,
the first
we
one?
already work with Devolver Digital with Gods Will Be Watching,
Oh okay.
and by that time we heard a lot of horror stories from publishers, from friends who work in the industry, and suddenly we discovered that Devolver Digital is none of that. I mean, actually, they feel like they're just a bunch of friends, and when we meet each other, instead of shaking hands, we hug each other. And during the development of the game, in Gods Will Be Watching and also in the Wrestling Club, they focus a lot uh, in making sure you are happy. I mean, they make reunions with you like every week asking, "Are you happy? Can we make anything to make you happier?" So they make sure you are really well. So I think it's a good strategy because creativity depends a lot on your mental state. So they make sure everything is to your liking and you don't have any handicaps to create, and they don't interfere in anything regarding the game content. They sure give feedback and they give their opinions, but they don't make mandatory requests of anything. They just suggestions, and they're usually good ones. So I don't mind following their advice. But yeah, they're great people.
Oh yeah, that's awesome because there's a lot of there's a lot of obviously ones that would not be as supportive, publishers that wouldn't be as supportive as
Yeah.
that. I definitely when I worked it, I haven't worked in it in the larger industry. I've been indie for like what is it the last long time or well
Mhm.
7 years. So in like in the naughties though, but yeah, even then it was just very a lot of you didn't have a lot of liberty and they basically it was a lot of top down decision making. So if you had a publisher that is letting you if the first question they ask is are you happy, that's kind of like a novel way to
Yeah.
run the businesses at the large scale.
Yeah, I mean, I have friends working in big companies, and they're always like so envious. Like, I wish I could work like that, not just having people come and stomp over our work and make silly demands and everything.
Yeah, that's really awesome. This question of everybody because I do get into Cyberpunk. This is just kind of a thing. what is your favorite what's your favorite cyberpunk movie and game maybe, or what's your favorite movie of all time if you have one?
Okay, so several questions there. If we speak about favorite movie, no matter the genre,
Okay.
my favorite movie is American Beauty.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
if we're speaking about Cyberpunk, I believe that the last Blade Runner one, I wasn't expecting anything from it, so I'm kind of really blown by it, and right now it's in my top one. But maybe I have to let time pass, so it settles in the ranking somehow. But I enjoy it a lot on the cinema in the cinema, and maybe about the game. Mm, I believe that it was the last Deus Ex, Deus Ex Mankind Divided. It's also happened a bit like with the last Blade Runner. I wasn't expecting a lot from it, and got really into how they design Prey, and I was able to go through people's computers and beat all the game without violence, and that felt really really good. I mean, not yeah, maybe violence, but not direct conflict. and and yeah, and I also got to confess, and you may hate me for it, but I haven't read Neuromancer. But I did read Burning Chrome, and I love it. That one, I mean, I put a lot of Burning Chrome in the restings. It's like my biggest cyberpunk reference. The kind of walls, because I love Burning Chrome because it has many different perspectives in a single book about many ideas. So I can build a lot of the world with that. And I also say that something that has helped me build a lot of cyberpunk imaginary is weird, but it's a board game. The Android Netrunner series. Do you know them?
Which one?
It's called Android Netrunner.
Oh,
And
I haven't played that. No, I think I heard of it.
well, it's a like a series of board games. You have a card game, and you have several board games. It's like a series, and in each of them they add lore to the manuals and books. So it's kind of a different experience in consuming narrative of I don't know. In some board games you play as corporations, some other board games you play as hackers and everything. So you start somehow building a narrative in your head, and I enjoy it a lot, consuming a narrative in an unusual way, which is board games. I don't know, and they really have this kind of context around. The last year I think they even released books about the universe because it had a great feel, and it's obviously based on the work of William Gibson. So
Oh, I see. Yeah. Well, yeah. There's a lot there. Well, let's go backwards. So, Burning Chrome definitely. I mean, if you
yeah,
did a Neuromancer, there's a lot of people who I think it's kind of like War and Peace. They kind of, oh yeah, I read it. They didn't actually read it. It's a hard book to read. I will say that it's not like a seventh grade reading. It's kind of tough. Even for me, I barely understood it the first time I read it. And there's a lot
yeah.
going on.
I mean, that happened to me because I tried starting with Neuromancer and didn't was able to form a picture in my head because it started with the Chatsubo and everything, and I didn't really understand what was happening, so I put it down, and then Burning Chrome was a easier way to get into that universe. But maybe I will go back to it now that I'm more used to William Gibson.
Yeah, for sure. No, but Burning Chrome is. Burning Chrome. What basically is it built the Neuromancer universe. That's kind of where it was hashed out. So, and then I do think actually Burning Chrome it doesn't get as much. Obviously, it didn't win the Hugo, the Philip K. Dick, and the Nebula Triple Crown. So it's not the biggest. It's not like a. It's like a smaller, lesser known sibling, but it has a lot going on. I really like the Gernsback Continuum. I like that a lot. That's kind of like for me. That was like one of the first cyberpunk work because it was cyberpunk. That's where it kind of you really get the tone right. The punk is about, to me. This is what I think, right? The punk aspect of cyberpunk is about the sardonic, kind of like sarcastic, critical tone, right? Of like, it's kind of tearing down like a lot of it, where it was about criticizing the, very very just purely escapist, like Star Wars style, science fiction, and Gernsback was like, "Oh, you thought that you're gonna have 16 highways and all these like very nice, mostly white people in beautiful robes, driving their beautiful cars in the diamond scrapers, and there's like just wasteland, right, in America, or it was 80s, so stuff wasn't going too good, kind of like now. So 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 it was critical, right, of that, but it has this kind of attitude, right, like it's kind of sarcastic tone, and like that. I think that's really the key of anyway. So I don't want to go on a long rant about that, but anyway, so Burnham is I think that's a great place to. It has all of the things that Neuromancer has. It's got the hackers, the cyberspace cowboys, the rich and the poor, and the technology merging with humanity. That's the cybernetics, all that. It's got everything. Neuromancer is just kind of a little bit grander story. It's more of it's a big key. It's like Ocean's 11 in the sprawl. So but it's I mean Burning Chrome is great. Everybody should go read Burning Chrome if you listen to this. And what would you say? Oh, Blade Runner 2049. That's interesting. I haven't. There's actually the score is 16 for Blade Runner, the first one, the best movie of all time, best cyberpunk movie of all time. 2 for Ghost in the Shell, and 1 Blade Runner 2049. So congratulations for thinking different. You're very original.
Yay!
I did like Blade Runner 2049. I liked it a lot. Well, yeah, you're correct. I thought it was just gonna be horrible, rip off trash. Like nothing.
Me too. Yeah.
But the Denis and Ryan Gosling, I was like, I didn't see a lot of his stuff. I saw like the note. I know him like the Notebook and a few other things, and it's like I don't know if that's gonna work, but he did. Nice. But and what is the other one you said? I love American Beauty for sure. And what was the other game you said? Deus Ex Mankind.
Yeah.
Mankind Divided. You said.
Yeah, Mankind Divided.
Yeah, I did.
I enjoyed it a bit more than Human Revolution. I don't know why. So.
You did? Oh, that one. Obviously, that one's got the most in the Deus Ex community. It's got the most. Let's just say its Steam rating is not the highest in the relatively speaking.
Yeah.
And its review rating is not the highest either. So, but I'm perfectly honest. I have not even got to play it, mostly because my computer sucks. But I know what it's about. I understand like what it was about, and I shouldn't comment on it because I haven't played it. But I mean the topics that it brings up. I am interested, obviously, in the topics like just a little. My Neophyte game is similar in the sense that there's a lot of the class differences and District 9. You know District 9?
Yeah.
Have you seen
it? Yep.
So how like the aliens in District 9 are kind of metaphor for the what do you call it, class and racial and problems in refugees for the symbols for the refugees and the problems in South Africa. So my I think that there's a lot of echo there, right? It's in Mankind Divided. I think in my game.
The thing with Mankind Divided is that I didn't enjoy that much the main story, to say like that, like the story they wrote to follow the plot, but the world building was really great. The environmental storytelling, how you went inside people's houses and you see how they live, and you check on their computers and you see the mails they send each other. You see the beggars on the street. You see how the police act, and that kind of mood was really powerful to me, and that kind of world building was really great. Then the plot wasn't as great, but just being able to go through that kind of universe, it was really, really interesting for me.
Yeah. I saw some of the footage of the gameplay, and I definitely think that's another. I mean, to me, that's another big part of the Cyberpunk is and I guess what it was the comment that I got really pissed off recently because there's this big article about how Cyberpunk there was no punk in the original Cyberpunk. They basically saying Neuromancer and the original William Gibson never had any punk in it. It was just a bunch of I don't know. It's just saying it wasn't as good as what the people think. But I think that's part of it, right? Is in Mankind Divided, right? It depicts Cyberpunk like a lot of science fiction, a lot of fantasy, and a lot of other genres. They depict middle class, upper class, or even more like the Starfleet commander, right? You got the Luke Skywalker is what the saving the universe, right? Fine, the people who get the girl and they get the night ship, or they get the whatever, they get the awards in the ceremony. But in Cyberpunk, right, it's not about those people, right? It's about the people who, in the poverty have to like do horrible things to get by, whether that's like prostituting themselves or sometimes they're doing other questionable behaviors, like manipulating other people to survive, right? So that's what differentiates it to me, right? And like, because I'm from a poor part of, I'm in Hawaii, but I'm from like there's actually a ghetto side of the palm trees, and I really hate it because it's like you'll never ever see that side of Hawaii. All you're gonna see is the blue Hawaii and all the vacation ads. And
totally.
So that kind of like you're just erasing like that whole side of it. That there's this other nasty side. That's why I came to Cyberpunk and I really liked it because it's like no, there's actually this other horrible side to the all the businesses and all the money and all that. It was like saying in all these people were making lots of money in the 80s, right? Like Gordon, what is that, Wall Street, right? Or but then on the other side there's all these homeless people and there's all these poor people. Yeah. And I was a social worker with these people, and it was like there's a lot of them, and it's horrible. And anyway, so that's why I think that's what I like about Cyberpunk, and I do think like it gives you a full picture of the world rather than just like I don't know, just having like a escapist kind of journey.
Yeah, a fantasy with clean heroes and novelty and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, but anyways, So I don't know, like. What do you? How is Spain? Where you live? Is it?
Well, I mean, we are lucky enough to live well here in Spain. I mean us, not all the people, and yeah, I mean we have a really high rate of unemployment compared to the rest of Europe, so we're kind of like in the queue. But I don't know, we have free healthcare for everyone, and I don't know. I think it would be better to be homeless in the United States, for example, than here. So there is a lot of unemployment and there is a lot of poverty, but somehow we have still. I don't know if it's going to keep like that if the country keeps going worse and worse, but. Yeah, right now you can have free health assistance if you want to, and that's like a huge step compared to other countries. So I wouldn't say we are as bad, but of course there is a lot of people with no home to live in, and every day there is like a big financial crisis here, and every day more and more people is becoming homeless because living is becoming more and more expensive. So yeah, right now maybe we're not seeing the threat as serious as it is, but I wouldn't be surprised if we end up in a really bad state in not a distant future.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely keep up on what's happening in. I try to keep up on what's happening all around, and especially economics. I mean that's a big part of Cyberpunk too, right? It is like international and global, and it talks about economic, which is something that they don't even bother with in a lot of Star Wars and stuff. It's just. But anyway, enough ripping on Star Wars. but like I do think that like it's definitely a problem here, and I think like Cyberpunk is uniquely equipped to attack that kind of stuff because that's what it's always kind of it's always been about that. And where I'm from, like I'm from the United States, and it was going to cost me $30,000 for my I have 2 kids and a wife, yeah. And for us, it's $30,000 to get any healthcare here. And I'm like, I could, I actually don't live in we were homeless for some time.
I see.
And I was a full-time teacher, and we were living in a car for a period of time, and it was not fun. Not fun. Because the rent was like my entire salary, like 70-80% of my salary, and then the healthcare was another $30,000 on top of that. So we just didn't have. Either you could have a house or no healthcare or food and no house. You have to make a choice.
That's crazy. $50,000 is what I make a year. So,
right. So it's kind of like definitely anybody who has if you have Universal, that's a great step. But anyway, so we live in right now. We live in I'm on the Big Island of Hawaii, where the volcano. The volcano that's shooting lava all over the place. I don't know if you saw that. We live about 6 miles from where the lava is erupting and burning down. It just, it was not burning everybody down, but it is. So, if you live there, if you live there, you will be. It will incinerate your house to the ground, and you can't build a wall for that. But we live there because it's. We actually live in a condemned house. It's Nobody wants to live in it, and stuff it's falling apart. So it's
Wow.
but yeah. So I actually have to go repair the water system. There's no drinking water. We don't have a pipe, so we have to go. It's a little. It's very cyberpunk. We kind of almost live in a container house off the grid.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But we can actually live here and afford it. So anyway, I guess that's a big topic, right? Is like I think it like I always thought of cyberpunk is like that's just that was I read Neuromancer, I read Burning Chrome, right? And I was like, these people, that's just where I live. That's everybody. I mean, they don't have all fancy cybernetic arms and shit, but they just have iPhones when they're doing their deals and doing their criminal behavior. But I mean, that's what everybody did. They just there was like they're selling themselves, they're selling drugs, they're selling whatever they got to do. So anyway, that's why I connected with it. And I feel like cyberpunk is it is still very relevant. It's still relevant, and
Yeah, totally.
and especially with the corporations. I mean, I don't know how the corporations are where you are, but Amazon wants to buy the entire state where I am, and it's a little scary because there's places where they actually take all the tax revenue, from the or they want to. I think they're trying to strike deals with governments where they just take basically all the good percentage of the tax revenue. And that's what used to go for the fire department. Never mind your healthcare, your fire department, your police department, your roads. So that's a little bit. I mean, I don't know. It's a little kind of. It's like cyberpunk. It's like cyberpunk reality. It's like crazy.
Yeah, totally. It's like that. Yeah.
But I find that all that kind of stuff really interesting to write about and talk about. And well, let's talk about Red Strings Club. So I don't just keep ranting.
It's alright. No, you made me want to play Neofield. So yeah, that's great.
That's what it's about. Nearfield has homeless, robots. They can't get their arm fixed, and it's basically, trying to get your, the main character is a social worker whose job it is to help homeless, punk, ghetto bots who want to be rappers, but they're never gonna be. They're just gonna be homeless bums. And then, and there's like there's half human hybrids, like the chimeras, that genetic engineering. But then they just get thrown out of their corporations into the trash pile when they don't need them anymore. And so he has to. He's like trying to get some food stamps for the bum. There's a ex-military Terminators, the hippie Terminator who went to war and he got his leg shot off, but the VA they don't want to give him any benefits now because he's done with the war. So it's got a lot of that.
I didn't play the Neofield, but I seen the trailer many times because I really love the music and how it is edited. So I kind of now see all the stuff you put from yourself into it for what I got from the world in the trailers. I mean, with all that flying castles, with the elite living there, and then the main character being fucked in that underworld there. Yeah. I
It's you gonna try it out one day?
Yeah. I will.
Cool. Yeah. I know it's I don't have translations. Sorry. When I make enough money, I'm gonna try to get some. I can't afford it right now. I'm too broke.
No, it's alright. We can do fine with English.
Okay, yeah, but it's definitely. I tried to get publishers. Actually, I got rejected because they're like this game is too. It's too raw. Like this is saying it's criticizing the wrong people. That was actually a comment I got, and I was like, oh yeah. So I said, well, I guess I'm gonna put it out myself. But I kind of had to make it because, like I said, I was a social worker for I grew from the ghetto, and I'm a social worker, so I was helping these people for a long period. And I actually I couldn't do anymore because I was coming home and I was like I had the amount of trauma, like people talk about trauma, right? Every day I was listening to horrible stories. I don't even want to really say it because I don't want to. But it's everything you can imagine: domestic abuse, abuse in homeless shelters, this being beaten by police and being in front of all the horrible stuff. So all that stuff kind of I was full of rage, right? And and meanwhile, there's millionaires living right on top of you because Hawaii has the most billionaires on the planet, right? Mark Zuckerberg wanted to buy one of our islands. Larry Ellison already bought one. It's crazy. I've actually worked for billionaires, and I was like actually still broke when I was working for one.
Wow.
And it's crazy. It's a crazy place. But you never hear that because of the marketing for it. And so anyway, that was Nearfield was just all that. I couldn't do anymore because the secondhand stress was too much. It's just like killing me. So I had to. Anyways, but that's what it was. So it's very intense. Like some people are like, it's just too intense for me, and I'm like, you know what? take a break and then come back to it if you can. But it's definitely it's all about that. It's all about it's a direct life experience thing. So yeah, but anyway, I really like that. I don't want to just be killing my own game this whole period. So, but I really like like the Wrestling's Club. I mean, just to get back to it, what I really liked about it was the the ambiguity and the corporate the part where I don't want to give the spoilers, but the part where the character is calling and doing the engineering was really interesting. I actually really like the character of the rock star dude. What's that guy?
Yeah.
I thought that was really all the characters are really memorable and very well written. There's no one-dimensional characters. They're all very interesting. No. What do you call the tropes? You very well. Good job of dodging all of the easy what do you call cliche characters. Oh, even the women in the Larissa's character, is kind of not what you would expect, from that particular character.
Yeah.
Which was so it was a really, really good job of all of that. Have you worked for a corporation like that, like Supercontinent, or no?
Oh no, I haven't been that lucky. No, I mean, since you speak about how your context and your life situation inspired and the content in Newfield, it's somehow something like that with the Wrestling Club. But it's not as much with the corporation stuff. Yeah, I started making games for a company that made games for Facebook, and it were like slot machines and trying to design a way of creating addiction and ripping people of their money, basically. So that's the closest experience I had, like working for a corporation. But since you speak about the characters and how they defined, something that is currently really strong in my context is like maybe for, I don't know, we the people I know, my friends, my family, they all have problems, but they seem like petty problems compared to other parts in the world. And what they are most struggling with is with depression. So I kind of wrote about that because I had myself to come to terms with depression and how it was affecting my environment, because when I was a kid, I wasn't able to perceive all that. And as I grew older, I mean, it didn't feel like people were depressed, but suddenly I knew a lot of people who were going to therapy and started taking antidepressants and all the stuff. And I kind of used the Residence Club to to cope with all that stuff, because I was asking myself, will antidepressants change the people I know? How is therapy going to affect them? Do they really need it? Why is all that happening? Why we're all depressed if we have money and food and friends and all the stuff we want, and still people is depressed? So the Resistance Club, many of the characters are like many parts of the same question I wanted to treat about why we're all depressed in the society we live, Occidental society we live right now. So that's kind of how I built the characters.
Yeah. I definitely got that was a strong theme, because I think somebody says, what's wrong with the social psyche welfare? We already alter our personalities through medication, which is true. And there's a review, I think it was on Polygon. This guy talked about, I think his name is Colin Campbell. He had this review where he basically said, he personally, also has to take pills every day in order, because he has, he had temper, and he had depression and other issues. So people already do this, right? And as you said, like if you have depression or it will lessen the months and months of just not being able to do anything. But then also, what does that do? Now you're somebody else, and maybe you kind of think you kind of think maybe I would have been somebody else if I didn't take this medication.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's a kind of a debate, right? Is like the artists, are the artists what do you call? They need that, or is it? But more recently, it's like maybe the depression didn't really make the art great. Maybe it was, maybe it was something else. So that's an interesting debate. Interesting question that gets brought up a lot in the Red Strings Club, and also, I can definitely see that. I know a lot of people who are also on medications for that kind of stuff. And I feel like, you know, cyberpunk society, or in a society, you know, capitalist dominated society, you have a lot of people, you know, on the bottom you have like, there's a homeless, there's obvious, really obvious violence, and, you know, homeless, poverty, all kind of, you know, crime and other things, the horrible things that people have to do to survive, all that kind of stuff. At the higher level though, you also have this kind of, you know, you might be doing a job where, you know, you're not necessarily hurting, but inside you're going to hurt because, you know, your job is meaningless. You know, your job is basically, you're just supporting, you know, I had an option, actually. I knew a lot of people who did take depressants. You know, I had an option to work at a real estate company, right? And the job basically would have entailed selling giant condos to billionaires who nobody lives in them. It's like 80% empty, right? Yeah. So I have a friend, his job is just to sell condos that are empty, that nobody lives in. Meanwhile, there's homeless people, right? So, so think of what does that do to your mind, right? If you just
yeah, totally.
What do you think about when I talk about my job? Because I was you know, I was a teacher for, you know, homeless children, and so I was a social worker, and I was like, yeah, it was really great at helping these kids. They don't want to talk about their job, right? You know, if you're a marketing to, you know, taking people that, you know, drinking this toxic soda is good for you, or making this cigarettes is good for you. What does that do to your psyche, right? You know, I think that's an affliction that's part of it's the, what do you call it? It's the harm of, it's the upper class is also suffering a different violence, I think, sometimes, you know. And I mean, I don't want to go too philosophical on that, but I do think like that's really interesting that all the characters, you know, is really brought up. You know, should I medicate? Should I not? And should we, you know, or would the society be better if everybody was just kind of evened out and happy? And I really like the part about it. I don't know else. I don't want to spoil it for everybody, but I really like that. The question: who's playing the piano in that? Is that live piano?
Yeah. It's live piano. It's also by Paula. I mean, everything that you can hear in the game, Paula did it. So yeah.
Oh wow. That's awesome. So the employees of Super Continent are devoted to the company. I thought that was also interesting, right? When you had that part where the employees, Akara had, I try not to spoil it too much, but the part where there's the high level, like, executives, like, and the character has an option to put in, what was it, like, there's like a punk, the punk modifier, or the hippie, the hippie implant. I can't remember the other one. The grandfather.
The grandpa, the grandpa,
The grandpa, I thought that was really interesting. Where did that come from?
I mean, the idea of disruptive upgrades, or the idea for the names.
Oh, I don't know. The both maybe.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I always when I design scenes for a game, I always try to think in the element of surprise, because I feel like if not, you kind of get like sedated. You just keep repeating something, and there's a moment in which you don't feel anything else. So that's why I try to brainstorm ways of breaking the routine. So that's why, I mean, when I don't know why, but before I knew the plot of the clinic chapter, the pottery one, I knew that some of the clients had to step off the conveyor chain. So I started from there. Then this character that infiltrates the clinic change your implants, and I use that as an opportunity to affect the plot in the future, because whatever you install on the executive will deeply affect the main story. So I went with like 3 approaches to what to do with this technology. You want to disrupt it, but you could choose either to completely annihilate it, like with a grandpa, don't make the implants work anymore, or you can use them in any direction. Like, I'm going to use the punk to make them reject any kind of authority, so they are like rebel punks like us. Or maybe I will try to do some extreme good, like magnifying their compassion, so they use their power and their status to actually help. So I don't know. I take a lot of decisions regarding the plot just to, like, conceptually, and then I try to make them fit with actually the story. So I always put like the experience of the player before the plot, then I try to tie it up together.
Oh, I
I don't know.
see.
That's a weird method, but I always think first on what this player is going to feel, and then how I'm going to make it all have sense in the plot.
Oh, I see. Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's definitely not the approach is definitely not the usual way. Or I guess every game developer is going to have slightly different approaches. But I mean, thinking about the feelings first. I mean, compared to like usual gameplay design, kind of a lot of times historically has focused on the fun of whatever the mechanical thing is, right? Where especially in a platformer or in a shooter, it's very is this challenging and satisfying, as opposed to like what is the person feeling. That's kind of a more of a writer or a movie director is asking that more. So that's because I'm more from a traditional thing, not traditional. I'm more from a designing games from the 90s and and that time, which is so. But I mean, like, yeah, I definitely see that. Playing more of the adventure games, I noticed. I don't know if you played it. I played Techno Babylon is one that I really like. I don't know if you heard of this game.
I heard of it, but haven't played it yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like Techno Babylon, and there were games by this group called Why Jedi Games that it's very cinematic. It's like shot for shot, and it's almost like watching a movie, but a little bit interactive.
Yeah.
Or watching a TV show, like a really good, like a prestige TV show. So I kind of wanted to emulate that. And although it's interesting that you said, yeah, I only played through it once. I didn't get to go back and like replay a lot of yet, but that's I could see like you have that little graph where you can see all of the different alternate paths you can take. So looks like there's a lot of replayability. I haven't tried too much. I've watched like a little bit of another playthrough, but like how much like is there?
Well, I in a single playthrough you get to see about maybe 40% of the content, but there are no major changes like new scenarios or new characters, and it's basically, since you can alter the emotions, a conversation can be really different if you tackle it from the depression point of view or from the lust or angry, or I don't know. But the thing is that while in the game you can consume a lot of different content to get the whole picture of what is going on with the corporation and the characters, the game has only one ending because it's a game about fate. Also, the Red Strings is based on the Chinese myth about fate. So I don't want to spoil anything. I would love to dwell into one of the meanings of fate I put into the game, but the thing is that yes, there's only one ending. So some people feel cheated. Like, I tried 8 times to change the end of the game, but it never changes because it has to happen like that. But you can actually see a lot of different stuff. I mean, the scene in the bridge with Joanna. Well, there depends on what did you install to her, the punk or the grandpa, or
I think I did the punk. Yeah.
Okay, so you got a scene in which she is pointed at a gun at you.
Yeah.
So if you install something different, instead of that, she is trying to jump off the bridge and you have to tell her down. So that scene completely changes the content and how it goes, depending on what you did earlier. So there's many variations inside of the game, but you will always... I mean, the game is fair because it ends in the same way that it starts. They tell you right off the bat how it's going to end.
Right. Yeah. It starts off with the guy falling, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the bridge scene was really good. It was an interesting mechanic. A lot of the mechanics are basically trying to convince, or it's, as you said, it's like some kind of manipulation in some way, or just trying to get people to do or think or do something or give you information. So, which is something that like I haven't played like a ton of. I really should play probably more games than I have. I play like one game every 2 months or something. It's pretty bad. Definitely like in the visual novel genre, there's a lot of that, right? I mean, I haven't played a lot of them, but have you played any of that?
Visual novels, yeah. I played some of them, but I usually have trouble because I played many of them trying to investigate for the wrestlings actually. But what I personally don't enjoy about visual novels is that they have really little interaction per minute. So they are actually a visual novel, you just reading with illustrations. And if I'm going to do that much reading, I prefer a book, honestly. So
Oh,
I, I kind of like the vibe of visual novels, but with the wrestlings, even if it shares part of the format, I wanted to add a lot of interaction per minute, so you don't just fall asleep. I mean, visual novels even have autoplay, so you can just put the controller in the table and just look to the TV. So yeah, well, I've seen many interesting ideas happen in visual novels. I always miss the interaction because since it's something that seems to be interactive, but it actually isn't. So I don't know. I am completely understand why people enjoy it, but it always makes me really. I don't know how to say it. I really want to touch the game because it feels like a game and I cannot touch it.
oh yeah, just kind of on autopilot. Yeah, that's definitely Wrestling's Club definitely has a lot of interaction. Like it has a lot of like very like tactile puzzles. When the pottery, the bartending. I mean, another game obviously Valhalla has bartending, but it's basically you click. I mean, it's also interesting, but it's not the Wrestling's Club. You actually have to literally like use the mouse to tip the bottle and pour the drinks and mix the drinks. So it's very much more it's not a ton of it, but there's a little bit of eye-hand coordination that you need to kind of get. Which it's a very like hands-on game, I guess, like literally.
Yeah, I mean, we could have solved that just through a menu, just selecting which kind of emotion do you want to create, and that's it. But I was really focused. I'm with interaction. I don't only mean the mini games, but the amount of conversation options you get while playing, because all the time the game is feeding you options to ask and to answer and all that. I thought that was really important just to not have the player mindlessly going through dialogue.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of options, and you kind of get the sense like because you can't save, right? So then you get the sense of that does help because then it kind of makes you really focus. You can't like save scum and just if I screw that up, I'm just gonna come back. So that makes it a little more. I think it helps to like heighten it because you're like if you screw it up and you don't say the right thing, you might miss a whole bunch of the story if you get that thing wrong or this thing wrong. So that's I think that was a good choice. So so on the topic of like I don't know of reception of like what people have thought about the Red Strings Club. What like just on like the reviews and how has that been? I know you guys got a lot of you obviously Devolver is helping you with the press and stuff, but what do you thought about what the feedback to the game?
Well, we are super happy, really, really happy. And it's in part because it's been a huge contrast with God Will Be Watching. Because when we release God Will Be Watching, it is a really hard game. You die a lot, you fail a lot, and you lose a lot of progress while playing. So when we release it, we got a lot of insults on the internet. And people sent us death threats, and they told us to stop making games, and it was really crazy. I mean, we were really depressed for weeks because we thought, okay, shit, we are not going to make games anymore because people just hate them. We got to like 80% of negative reviews in Steam. On Steam,
man.
that was crazy, yeah. But after, I mean, Ghostly Watching, after a couple of months, it got up to 70% of positive reviews because it was like people that was bounced off because of the difficulty were just lashing out to the game and writing bad stuff and everything. And with people dedicated 10 hours to the game, 8 hours, they started to come. And what I think completely healed us was the fan art. After a couple of months, we started seeing fan art on Tumblr and Twitter and everything, and that was what made us feel that it was worth it. And then with the Wrestling's Club, we were bracing ourselves again for the impact of people not liking the game and insulting us or whatever. and it's been crazy the opposite. People loved it. It's been 6 months since the release of the game, and we are still getting every day, every week. We get message from people on mail or private or directly on Twitter, thanking us for making a game like this. That it made them cry, made them feel some stuff, made them think about life, that made them regain hope in gaming. I don't know. It's been crazy the amount of good feedback we had. I mean, we got to about 92% of positive reviews on Steam.
Wow.
And the ones that are negative are people that are angry with our political agenda. So I think that's good feedback too. That's a success. Because, yeah, I mean, we were expecting a bit of that kind of feedback because when we released some trailers of the game, just with a bit of information inside of the trailers, there were already comments from people saying like, okay, so this is a game about faggots and fat chicks. I don't want to play it. So that kind of
Oh man.
people, yeah, really didn't like the message of the content of the game because they think we should leave political opinions out of games, and I completely disagree with them. So I guess that negative reviews sell the game as well as the positive ones for the Resistance Club.
Yeah, I definitely know about that. I haven't we haven't had nearly as many, not as much of the scale as Red Strings Club, but definitely I've encountered that. Yeah, a lot of some accusations about the political agendas. I actually did and I agree with you. I actually did an entire article with actually the guy who wrote the Polygon article, Colin. And it
Mm-hmm.
was basically about should games, or it was about politics in games and whether games should have politics at all. And the larger game companies who they use kind of like the trending political topics, like for example on a Far Cry 5.
Mm-hmm.
These other, they don't really deal with the subjects. Just like because I definitely am of the opinion that that games, they obviously, some games not every game has to be political. I mean, obviously, my example is Mario is not about the liberation of Italian plumbers from the the evil, I don't know, whatever. It's just a game that's fun. But there are definitely some games that, particularly like ones that are like books and movies, right? I mean, books and movies, they always have a message in them.
Yeah, but
Um,
with I'm of the opinion that every game is political, even if you don't want to. Every design decision is making the players behave in certain ways. So rewarding for shooting people in the head is a political stance. Mario having to save a princess is a political stance. Tetris having the towers from Moscow in the background is a political stance. I mean, every decision, like even if it feels harmless, it puts something of the author into the game, even if the author is a corporation like Ubisoft. I mean, Ubisoft make games with people who has the flag of the United States in the back and shoots people of brown color. So that's a political stance, even if you want to wash your hands out of it. I mean, I think every design decision is telling something about us.
yeah, definitely, yeah. Every act is has some. Yeah, it's saying so. Every choice you make, what you show, you don't show. That's definitely something that, like, that was one of the reasons, because I was working on a lot of FPS. I did
Mhm.
it. Deus Ex, the first Deus Ex. I don't know if you've played this one. Deus Ex, the Conspiracy.
The
Um,
gameplay.
yeah. That's the original. Is the one that I started. My other big game. It was a total conversion mod. It was a big mod. I can't tell it because it's a big mod of Deus Ex. But that one, um, I started off modding for as Half Life, Unreal, Deus
Mhm.
Ex, and all those kind of games. And but later on, I was like, when I was thinking about it, I was like, I wanted to tell this when I was making Near Field. I was like, I want to tell this story, but I just wanted to make a game, and I was like, but then also I want to have this kind of story about this like, this massive inequality, and like, the neo feudal, neo feudalism, which is like these kings and queens that are basically the CEOs, and these other people, and this is kind of like in depth, District 9 crossed with Neuromancer and Burning Chrome sort of story,
Mhm.
and crossed with Game of Thrones, and it's very, but then I have all these characters. It was a platformer, so the guy's running around just shooting stuff, right? The guy's just running around shooting. They're shooting cockroaches or shooting. Eventually, he was going to be shooting robots, and I was like, wait. I was thinking about. I was like,
I-
if you want the character, you want the player to like feel like an emotion when the friend dies and the player just ran around just like massacring thousands of whatever they happen to be, then I was like, this is gonna bring a little bit hollow. The guy just killed like how many things that were alive, and then you want him to feel sorry about this one, or it just like, I don't think this is gonna work very well. And that's kind of when I started thinking about it, and I was like, yeah, it is, I do think it is a statement. What everything that you included in the game, everything that you put in your film or whatever, is saying something. So yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, it's hard to not make it's hard to not, I mean, well, maybe it's impossible to make something that has zero politics in it.
I mean, I think it's better to embrace it, because if you reject this idea, you are anyway saying things but not being aware that you are saying things. Yeah, it happened to me with Godly Watching. I was just making a game, and it's a space opera mixed with a Western kind of plot, and I was just wanted to have fun. But when I finished the game and I started to think about more narrative stuff and studying about what you can do with games and the power of them, I realized I made an anti-system game. It was a completely rejection of authority, and also I didn't know, I unconsciously a cast that is just everyone is a white male, and then there's a woman and a black character. And I did that just because it was Hollywood taught me. I was just wanted to make something that was fun, and that's it. And when you are not conscious of your decisions, you incur in a lot of stuff that, without knowingly, you just perpetuating stuff you maybe you don't agree with, but if you don't think about them, you just, I don't know, keep perpetuating that kind of stuff. So it's better to be aware that everything you are going to design, from the mechanics to the UI, it's going to say something about how you perceive the world and your work.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it establishes the what is the normal, or what is accepted, and what is it's a hard thing to get around. I guess that's why there's a lot of you have to kind of, well, I guess more companies are trying to, or at least they should be trying to, bring on other people to take a look at the game and say, is this saying something that we don't really want to say? It's probably a good idea. Definitely when it comes to like the message, the intentions of the game, my thing is like, a lot of people are like, well, I just want to have fun. I don't want to like, learn. I just want to escape, right? That's kind of this a thing, right? Mm-hmm. It's a complaint, right? It would be like, I don't want to. If I wanted to learn about politics or this, I would watch the news or read a book. I wouldn't. I want to play a game and I want to escape from reality. So I don't want to like, I just want to blow off some steam. I'm done with reality. I don't want to think about. Yeah.
I guess that the word politics is really scary. Like, oh no, I'm not into serious stuff. I'm not political at all. But life is a stance. I mean, how you live and how you talk is a stance, and we can put the word you want on it, but we're all making all the time decisions with our lifestyle and what we say and everything. So it's better to be conscious about it. Just it.
Yeah, for sure. I can see why the bigger studios would want to kind of suggest that they don't, because they want to avoid, what is it? I think that was one of the reasons. I think that the writer of that Polygon article was saying was that if you could, if you're a AAA studio, you need to sell it to millions and millions, hundreds of millions, or a billion people, right? So if you alienate half the audience, right, by
yeah, exactly,
saying we're taking a side, then you just lost 500 million, or you lost half the audience, right?
You want the money from all the stances, so
yeah, you want all the stances, exactly. So you want to don't. So it's just so it's just why and this is why I think you end up getting these kind of basically pretty bland. Stuff from the top, because it's very designed by the PR department, by to not offend anybody. So anyways, but I'm like, you know what, you don't want to public, that's why I'm indie. I used to work for bigger companies, and I was like, I'm done with this, because I'm like, I was working, like on the Microsoft accessories, they have Solitaire, the card game. I was actually working on one of those, and the design decisions were, do we want to have the king? Does the crown on the king, should he have rubies or emeralds in the crown? And it was like, who gives a shit? I don't want to. That's not design. That's boring, and also, so it's kind of like you're very limited. Obviously, at that level, you're very limited, right?
Yeah.
With what you can do. So, which is why indie, you have the freedom to do that, as we already talked about. Yeah. So I mean, that's really great that at least that your stream's got the very positive feedback. It does deserve it. Have you had any or are you guys working on anything new, or are you still just kind of working on?
We're working on something new, but we're back to our dynamic that is making a lot of games. I mean, we like I said, we made 25 games so far, and 2 of them made it into commercial releases. So this time we want to avoid what we made after Ghostly Watching. That was to think that we were already super skilled and we just can start making a game and make it successful. So we don't want to go big again and rent an office and go with a bigger team, even if we survive this time. So we want to skip all those failures and go to fail quicker, which is making experiments and joining game jams and experimenting with ideas. And whenever we find something that it's worthy, or we see a reaction from the public on the people who play game jam games and experiments, we will know, and we will put all of efforts into working a whole year, because for an indie, working a year on something and failing can mean just not being able to make games anymore until you go back onto your feet.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's the money and resources is very limited. So yeah, I can definitely see that. Yeah, I've been hoping to. Eventually, I wanted to bring more people on. I'm basically a one person developer. Like I do everything. So it's a little bit. It's been tough, but I mean, the only thing I have is I've been making games for 20 years, so I've gotten that time to figure out programming and art. And I started playing music in high school, and I actually was I was a composition major for some time in college. So it's been like 20 years of figuring this kind of skills out. But it is I'm not the best at what do you call directing, like giving people. I've had some incidences where in project management, I gave people instructions like for the music, and I was like, I need this. I didn't give like good enough kind of like direction.
It's hard because it took me a long to be this good with my team, because I've worked with many different people, and it's not only about being to communicate well, but also finding someone with chemistry to work with. I mean, indie development to me is like falling in love. You just have to keep dating until you find the correct people to work with who are on the same level, creatively speaking.
Yeah, definitely. It's a tough process. I'm still what do you call, in RL married, but I'm still indie game dev single. So any if you enjoy long walks on the beach, the digital beach, then you can come. I will. I need Silver Spook dating. No. I try to do like a lot of things, and I've worked with a few writers. I tried one with writers. I tried one with But yeah, I think it's just like my personality is just I'm a little bit very I don't know, not hermit, but I don't know. I get kind of, sometimes I can get kind of not psycho, but possessive about certain things. So then I don't want it to change. I don't know if you I'm sure you have that. Have you had that experience?
Yeah, I totally understand. It happened to me too when partners told me to change stuff because they wanted it that way, with no real big reason about it, because they feel like everyone in the team should have opinions, and that's all right. But when you make something as personal as the wrestlings or New Feud, you just have to find people who love your work and have the kind of visions you want to create, and they want to make all they can to make it happen. So when people is not as in love with your work as you are, it's really hard, because they don't see all the time you spend all the nights thinking about it, and all the anxiety and all the kind of work you put into creating it, and they just come some afternoon and say, hey, when do we change this character and change this event, and they haven't put hundreds of hours into thinking it, and they just are not as sensitive to the content as you may be.
Yeah. That's definitely yes, that's definitely true. That's why but someday, when I I'm actually working on well, I don't want to talk more about my stuff. I'm working on something else, but it's more like another project. I'm trying out working with another team. I'm not the lead on it, so I don't feel as like
Oh, I see.
So if I'm not the lead, I kind of I'm writing for it's actually a Cyberpunk RPG. Not the scale, not Cyberpunk 2077 CD Projekt scale, obviously, but but yeah, I don't think that I said we keep saying we got to get this game out before that, because once that game comes out, everything else we're gonna be smashed to dust by that game.
Yeah.
That's a huge game coming out. I don't know if are you excited for that or what?
Yeah, I'm really curious. I mean, if they do it well, it's going to be really enjoyable to just get lost into that world. I hope it's going to be like more like an open experience where you can just experience Cyberpunk.
Yeah. I like I said, my computer is my computer is like a step above like a Windows DOS machine is a piece of crap. But I'm gonna get a new computer just for this game. I haven't played to be 100% honest, I haven't even played a modern FPS in like I don't even know how many years. So I'm gonna get one just for CD Projekt Red Cyberpunk. You better be good, CD Projekt, because I'm gonna spend like $1,000. That's
It's
my
like
rent.
Super collector edition that comes with a powerful computer.
That's what, I'm gonna need one of those. I swear. But it looked. I've liked everything I've seen. I like the Witcher series. They look like they can handle it because they've done more serious. They've told good stories, and Mike Pondsmith, who's the original designer of Cyberpunk 2077, is on that team helping them out. So looks like they have a lot of good folks on there. I have faith. I can't guarantee what it's going to be, but I have faith in it. There's some talk about there's an article about this transgender characters right in the game, and somebody was not happy right with the way that that happened. What did you have any thoughts on that or?
Yeah, I mean, to people who are listening to know really about what happened, is that there's this transgender character in the game, and at some point where you are investigating information about people who work at the company, you came to discover at that point the dead name of the character. So it's something that can be painful for transgender people, and we got called out by an outlet that was Waypoint, and they say like they were really angry about it. Like they wrote a really I don't know how to say with a lot of passion that you shouldn't that name ever, and we were able to answer to Waypoint, and they wrote a second article with our declarations, and at the time they weren't aware that we are a team of 3 people and one of us is a transgender person, and it was we wanted to treat it with a lot of care because we wanted to add this character. And when you meet Larissa, she comes like a femme fatale, and you don't really know anything about her being transgender or anything, so you see it as any other regular character. And this was a way to add in depth to that character a posteriori. When you find out, you already have your preconception, because if you present a character, say in advance that is transgender, it's like you already have preconceptions, you already are going to be in a certain stance to that character. So we made it through the name that maybe it's painful for some people, but as Paula, my partner, said, it's something that it's a reality also for transgender people. You have to deal with your dead name in your everyday life. There is in every documentation around. You have to you have to deal with it. And maybe it was a risky move to include it in the game, but I don't know. We wanted to depict that part of the reality in the game. And I understand why that's a sensitive issue for many people. And I'm sorry if that made some people uneasy, but I don't know. We really wanted it. It's not easy to treat any of this stuff, but I think it's important to treat it, and it's important to let queer creators to even fail or make it incorrect, because there's not a lot of this content. Yeah. And we should be to empower that kind of creations. I mean, normative creators have been offensive all their life with everything they create, and that's we dealt with it. So I think we should allow queer creators to just fail a bit or experiment or I don't know, discover themselves through their creations.
No, totally. I definitely agree. That's exactly what I was talking about. And I remember when I read it, I had played the Red Strings Club all the way through, and I was like, oh, what are people saying about? And then I found that, and I to be 100% honest, I was a little bit like pissed off when I read the article. I was like, are you really gonna, come on, this is like as an indie developer, right? It was a small team, 3-person team, and I'm a 1-person, small team. The amount of time and effort and it's a risky, as you said, to have queer creators taking a lot of risks just to make this game at all, and it's doing a lot of new things and discussing issues and dealing with things that are relevant to society and to cultural norms, social norms, and the trans, whether it's not just transgender, it's just social manipulation topics, philosophical depression, all the things we talked about. And there's all this great stuff happening, and then you're gonna pick up on this one little tiny. I mean, I don't know. It's just it's like because this has happened to Neophyte. Like I didn't like the one way that this character is. I didn't like this one little bit, and I'm just gonna thumbs your whole thing down that you spent 3 years working on. Just because of I thought it's very. I mean, I can understand why they would feel that, but this is actually an interesting topic now. In this that's being debated is
I'm up for any kind of opinion or criticism, but what I was more afraid of article is that it would keep a lot of people from playing the game, just thinking the game is transphobic, while it isn't. It's made with a lot of love for all the kind of the queer community, and I want everyone to play because we are not usually really well represented in games. And for one game, I think that honestly represent us because we didn't have to make an effort to add representation because the effort would have been to make normative characters because we are queer ourselves. So it was just representing ourselves. And I think it's something that not a lot of people can find in games, and I'm sure we made a good job because we received a lot of praise from many people sending messages thanking us, like thank you, finally I can find somewhere to feel represented or to feel at ease or something different made with characters that is just not tokenism. And it made me angry because the possibility that it is a big outlet of news. So if it would keep a lot of people who would enjoy the kind of narrative we created, that would make me sad.
Yeah, definitely. It was making me sad, and I didn't even make the game. So, because that's what I was thinking. Yeah, it's just like let people don't scare people away from something that is really worth it. For something that is not really. I didn't think it was very fair. I mean, you could have had that at the bottom. By the way, there's this. By the way, there's this particular thing I didn't like, but the headline was like, "This game is sabotaged by that." Yes. Can you choose a better headline? Come on, like.
Yeah.
A little bit on that topic is something that I've been talking with a lot of people, and they're like, because it is. I understand it is painful. I mean, obviously, I'm not trans, so I've never experienced it. Although I had transgender friends who were like, it is painful to have the wrong pronoun or have the wrong, have that dead name brought up, and it is. Yeah, I'm sure it is trauma, but I do think it is like I'm agreeing that it is the trauma and is painful and reliving it, right? And then we have content warnings, right? Mm-hmm. So people don't, if you don't want to, then you don't. And I have a lot of content warnings. I do have some content warnings on Neophyte because there is very traumatic things in that. But I do think that that just avoiding reliving some trauma because I just don't want to see it or hear it. I do think like you do need to. I do think it's important to at least include that's the full reality of it, even if it's sometimes it is painful because then it's like I could be like, oh, we're gonna have Neophyte, but no homeless people, no poor people, no I mean the other side of it, right, is protecting people from that secondhand trauma is also erasure, right? Because then it's like, oh, it's fun. It's all fun and games, or it's taking away that real experience of having been a trans person or having been a homeless person or whatever it is, right? I mean, I don't know. That's my feeling, is that you need to have that in there, otherwise it's you're what do you call it? You're airbrushing it, which is my whole life, my whole town is one giant airbrushed over town, right? With Hawaii. I hate that. That's why everything I make is full of, it's like full of dirt and grime. People actually really got pissed off because, there's a lot of near future. It looks like, why is it so dirty and disgusting? I'm like, yeah, that's what it looks like when you live in poverty. It's all gross. And I think that you need to see that, So anyway, good job on, it was done well from my personal perspective anyway.
Great.
Yeah. Red Strings Club. I mean, yeah. Again, this is the Red Strings Club. This is Jordi de Paco of Deconstructeam. Red Strings Club is a really awesome cyberpunk adventure game. I have played through it all the way through, and this is like one of the 4 games. The Silver Spook, Mirror Shade, Chrome Seal of Approval, because I only play like 4 games a year, so this is one of them. And I really liked it a lot. So if you have, it's like what is it, $15 on Steam, right? I think.
Yeah, $15.
And I really liked it a lot. If you like me, I'm pretty sure you're gonna like this game. If you like Valhalla, Techno Babylon, these are some of the games I talked about. Point and click adventure cyberpunk games. This is like a very well written, very well rounded, very what cyberpunk should be moving towards in 2018, I think. Sort of game. I'll ask William Gibson. He probably will approve too.
Would love to.
So Deconstructeam is on Twitter, right? Obviously.
Yeah. If you look for Deconstructeam, I mean, we have pretty much the same handle for Tumblr or Twitter or everywhere you want to find us. So Deconstructeam everywhere.
The other two, so one of them is Paula.
It's Paula and Marina.
Okay, cool. So it's 3 people, Deconstructeam, and under Devolver Digital. So yeah, anything else you want to say?
No, it's been fun. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for being on. Awesome. Anyway, so yeah, this is Silver Spook. You can find me at Google Silver Spook. Don't click on all the expensive sporks because that comes up, and I accidentally don't do that. Anyway, so Silver Spook Games, and I'll let everybody knows. Yeah, thanks everybody for listening. I'm really bad at signing out, so I always say something stupid like, keep your mirror shades reflective.
Amazing.